For now, we turn our attention to Rio de Janeiro. Why, you ask? The city was thrust into the spotlight a few years ago when it signed on to host the 2014 World Cup and was awarded the 2016 Olympic Games. And like here, but to a much larger extent, these world events were pitched as a catalyst to modernize infrastructure, improve quality of life in and around Rio. So, have they? That question is at the center of the new book, Dancing with the Devil in the City of God. It was written by Rio native Juliana Barbassa. We've invited her here to get a picture of what might be, but now it'll be a snapshot of what might have been. She joins me now. Juliana, it's great to see you. So when the Olympics was awarded to Rio in 2009, right? Is that what it was? For 2016. What was the reaction of the people? Were they happy?
Oh my God. You should have seen Copacabana Beach. I mean, it was fireworks, people throwing confetti in the air, dancing in the streets, literally. We felt like the world had noticed that we were there.
Well, it had. I mean, because it had. So what kind of promises of benefit for the city and its people were made by Olympic organizers? What did they say was going to happen to improve your city?
Well, much like what happened here, but to a much greater extent, because the needs of Rio were so much greater. There was talk of improving transportation infrastructure, bringing investment, and generally dealing with some of the city's shortfalls, inequality, lack of adequate housing, things like that. Basically, a problem, they had the solution.
But not maybe on a different scale, but not dramatically different from what we heard here from Boston 2024. So in the intervening, 6 years, has reality tracked the vision or no?
No, I think that Rio residents learned slowly and rather painfully that big events like the World Cup and the Olympics make for very poor urban planning tools. What happens is these events come in and they've got their own agendas and their own timelines. And often the people who worked to bring them have their own agendas as well. And when you get on that track to get ready, for the kickoff in the case of the World Cup or for the torch lighting, everything goes towards that. There's no deviation.
One of your core theses, which I think you're just talking about here, is that essentially the games, Rio had to adopt the games vision rather than the games adopting Rio's vision, the latter of which we thought was going to happen here, at least the proponents thought was going to. I mean, that is a fair statement of what happened, yes?
Exactly.
So the thing I don't quite understand about this is that this exaltation in 2009, and obviously there was the World Cup in the intervening years. You had the Pan Am Games in 2007, which aren't quite the Olympics and aren't quite the World Cup, but they're not nothing either. How did that turn out?
Well, that was lesson number one. The part of the Pan Am Games was to show that we could throw these big events and do them well, do them successfully. But the Pan Am Games were more than 8 times what their budget was originally supposed to be. And they left us with venues that could not be reused. That was goal number 2 of the Pan Am Games, was to build things that could later then be reused to host further
sustainable
mega events.
Things.
Yeah.
So I don't understand. So if the people were jubilant in 2009 and they learned that 2007 was not what it was promised to be, 2009, the awarding of the Olympic Games, 2007, the Pan Am Games, did they choose to ignore history in the hopes of this grandeur, or what was it?
It's a bit complicated. For one, some of the things that were built for the Pan Am Games, like the velodrome, were meant to be reused later. We're supposed to, once we got the Olympics, be reused in the Olympics themselves. It wasn't until we got the Olympics that the experts came in and said, sorry, we're going to have to raise this and rebuild. So some of these things people only caught on a little bit later. And honestly, Brazil, in 2009, it was booming, the economy was doing really well, and there was a sense that, we are going to show the world that we can. And the Olympics is the biggest event. It was going to be our chance to do it.
So if there was a vote today, and we were about that, well, not about, we would have had a vote in November of next year, despite that jubilation on the beaches in 2009, if there were a vote today with only a year to go, it's only a year until the games are supposed to open in Rio, what would the people of Rio and the larger country, how would they vote? What would they say?
They would say no.
Why?
You don't have to look very far. Right before the World Cup happened in 2013, we had massive popular protests. We had hundreds of thousands of people in the streets calling, among other things, for more money on health and education, less money on stadiums.
Help poor people rather than people who are behind these games.
Exactly.
So, but you know, the reason we originally invited you here, again, we didn't know this thing was going to fall apart on Monday, but it's still of value since we're not going away. Are the lessons of Rio transferable, or is Rio an aberration? I mean, it seems to me the inequality is much more extreme than it is here. Poverty is much more extreme than it is here. So are there transferable lessons, or are there not, Juliana?
I think there definitely are.
What are they?
We have seen the Olympics in particular get more and more expensive with every 4-year cycle. They're getting bigger and bigger, and it's not just Rio. Look at Athens, look at Sochi, look at the majority of the games, nearly all of them, I believe, have gone over budget and have left cities with debt and with empty infrastructure. So Rio is actually not exceptional. Rio has particular problems, but these the Olympics have brought.
You think they're universal. So
Yes.
would you say, ask Andrew Zimbalist there, who wrote Circus Maximus, sort of the definitive book on World Cup and Olympic Games, are you saying we should never have an Olympics? And it seems unless you're a Russia and a Sochi or a China, that essentially it's a losing proposition, no?
Well, I think it's a time to really rethink these games, rethink how they're promoted to the people. And for the IOC, I wrote an op-ed about this today. It's time for the IOC to really rethink the cost of these and the sustainability
Well,
of
they
them.
said Agenda 2020 is that, but who knows? In any case, the one thing I could really relate to, you couldn't afford an apartment in your hometown of Rio, and we can't afford apartments here. Juliana Barbassa, the book is
Thank
great.
you so much.
Dancing with the Devil in the City of God.